How has the most popular anime streaming app of all time become the most hated? Crunchyroll used to be loved by many, but over time, everything has changed. For an entire generation of anime fans, struggling to watch anime is not just a hypothetical scenario, it's a weekly, agonizing reality. What started out as a hub for anime fans to support the industry has slowly mutated into a corporate behemoth that actively disrespects its own user base. The platform is plagued with controversies. Today, we're going to look way deeper than just the server crashes and the buffering videos. We're going to break down the corporate greed, the broken promises, and the downfall of Crunchyroll's reputation. How does a company that started as an illegal piracy website become the ultimate multi-billion-dollar authority on anime? How did they manage to completely alienate the voice actors and translators who could actually make the content watchable? Why did they intentionally delete thousands of hours of digital media that their users rightfully paid for? To truly understand the absolute hypocrisy of modern Crunchyroll, you have to understand exactly where they came from. You have to look at the exact moment their story was born. If you're a younger anime fan, you might think Crunchyroll was always this massive legitimate streaming platform with official licenses and corporate backing. But if you grew up in the mid to early 2000s, you know the dark secret. Crunchyroll started as a piracy website. Back in 2006, watching anime in the West was incredibly difficult. You either had to buy ridiculously expensive DVD box sets, wait for Toonami to air dubbed episodes on cable television, or you had to sail the high seas. Fans relied on peer-to-peer sharing and illegal hosting sites to watch low-quality fan-subtitled episodes of Naruto and Bleach. Crunchyroll launched as a video hosting site, essentially a YouTube clone specifically dedicated to anime, but they didn't own the rights to any of the content they were hosting. Users were uploading copyrighted episodes, and Crunchyroll was making money off the ad revenue. They were literally profiting off of stolen Japanese media, and for a while, they were the heroes of the anime community. They made anime accessible, but the Japanese animation studios were furious. They demanded that Crunchyroll be shut down. Instead of getting sued into oblivion, Crunchyroll secured a massive venture capital investment of over $4 million. And right here, right at this moment, Crunchyroll stopped being a fan project and became an investment. And investments need return, remember that. They used this money to pivot. They approached the Japanese studios, apologized for the piracy, and offered to buy official, legal streaming rights. They promised to go completely legitimate. They removed all the illegal uploads, launched a premium subscription service, and promised the entire community that their money would go directly to the hardworking animators in Japan. And hold on to that promise. It's going to become the centerpiece of everything that follows. Crunchyroll had a brilliant redemption arc. They went from being the biggest pirates on the internet to becoming the official savior of the Western anime industry. Fans willingly opened their wallets because they believed in the mission. They wanted to support the creators. But that noble mission statement was about to get a price tag put on it. The downfall of Crunchyroll did not happen overnight. It was a slow, creeping corporatization. As anime exploded in global popularity, transforming from a nerdy hobby into mainstream pop culture, massive American corporations realized there was billions of dollars on the table. Crunchyroll stopped being an independent anime hub and became a highly lucrative corporate asset. It was bought by the Chernin Group, then acquired by AT&T, and bundled into their Warner Media division. It was tossed around like a toy between massive conglomerates who did not care about anime. They just cared about the recurring monthly sub revenue. But the true definitive moment that doomed the anime community happened in 2021. Sony Pictures Entertainment, through its subsidiary Funimation, bought Crunchyroll for an unbelievable $1.17 billion. And at the time, Funimation was Crunchyroll's only real competitor. Funimation dominated the English dub market, while Crunchyroll dominated the sub market. They kept each other in check. If one service raised its prices or had a terrible app, you could just switch to the other. But when Sony bought Crunchyroll, that competition was officially gone. Sony announced that they were going to merge the two platforms. Funimation would eventually shut down, and all of its content would be moved over to Crunchyroll. On the surface, corporate PR spun this as a massive win for fans. All your anime in one place. They cheered. One subscription to rule them all. But anyone with a basic understanding of economics knew exactly what this meant. This was the birth of a terrifying monopoly. When a company owns the entire market, they have absolutely zero incentive to improve their product. They don't have to fix their broken video player. They don't have to pay their translators fair wages, or have respect for their customers, because where else are you going to go? And it didn't take long for the mask to completely slip, because here's the thing, Sony hadn't even finished closing the deal yet, and Crunchyroll was already spending the money. Before the Sony buyout was even finalized, Crunchyroll made one of the most disastrous decisions in the history of the platform. For years, fans had been paying the premium fees with the explicit understanding that their money was going back to Japan to support the anime industry. The working conditions for Japanese animators are notoriously brutal. They work insane hours for poverty wages. Fans wanted their money to help fix that. That was the whole premise. That was the whole deal. But Crunchyroll looked at their massive mountain of sub cash and decided they wanted to be a production studio. They announced the Crunchyroll Originals lineup. Instead of taking the millions of dollars they earned from anime fans and giving it to Japanese studios to fund new anime, they took that money and built their own studio in Burbank, California. And then they used those funds to create a Western, American-made cartoon called High Guardian Spice. When the trailer dropped, the internet exploded in anger. The show looked incredibly cheap, the animation was stiff, the art style was generic, and it looked absolutely nothing like the Japanese anime that the users were actually paying for. But the actual content of the show was not even the biggest problem. The biggest problem was the marketing. When Crunchyroll released a behind-the-scenes promotional video for High Guardian Spice, they didn't talk about the story, they didn't talk about the action, they spent the entire video bragging about the diversity of their writing room in California.
The fact that Crunchyroll Originals is doing this as a 2D animated series, it's giving us an opportunity to do things artistically that a lot of other shows and other studios really have forgotten how to do.
They were incredibly proud of themselves, but the community felt betrayed. Millions of users realized the money they thought was supporting overworked, underpaid Japanese animators was actually being funneled into a vanity project for American writers in Los Angeles. High Guardian Spice premiered to absolutely abysmal reviews. It was universally mocked, and it stands as a permanent monument to everything fans feared about the Sony acquisition. But here's the part that makes it even worse. While Crunchyroll was blowing fan money on a cartoon nobody asked for, they were simultaneously treating the actual human beings who make anime watchable in the West like they were completely disposable. You would think that a multi-billion-dollar company that monopolizes an entire entertainment sector would at least take care of the people who actually produce the content, the translators, the subtitle creators, and the voice actors that are absolutely the backbone of the Western anime industry. Without them, the content is inaccessible. But Crunchyroll treats these vital workers like absolute garbage. Let's talk about the Mob Psycho 100 Season 3 controversy. This is a true moment that exposed the greed of Crunchyroll's management. Kyle McCarley is a phenomenal voice actor. He was the English voice actor of Shigeo Kageyama, the main character of Mob Psycho 100. He had already voiced the character for the first 2 highly successful seasons, and the fans loved him. The performance was iconic. When Season 3 was announced, Crunchyroll approached McCarley to return. However, McCarley is a member of SAG-AFTRA, the actors' union. He asked Crunchyroll to produce the dub under a union contract, and he wasn't asking for a crazy pay raise. He was just asking for basic union protections, like healthcare contributions and guaranteed safety standards. In fact, Kyle even offered to work on a non-union contract. The only thing he wanted was Crunchyroll simply agreeing to sit down and having a meeting with union representatives about future projects.
So, I went back to Crunchyroll with the offer that I would agree to work on this season of this show, non-union, on the condition that they agree to sit down and meet with SAG-AFTRA representatives with the purposes of negotiating a potential contract for them to use on future productions. That's all I was asking.
Crunchyroll flat out refused. They refused to even have a conversation about union standards. Instead of negotiating with the voice actor who helped make the show a massive success in the West, Crunchyroll fired him. They recast the main character of a beloved anime right before its final season, entirely because they didn't want to acknowledge basic labor rights. And the community was once again outraged. Other voice actors began coming forward, exposing the reality of working for Crunchyroll. They revealed that the company notoriously pays some of the lowest rates in the entire voice acting industry. Translators came forward on Twitter, explaining that they're paid absolute pennies to accurately translate complex Japanese dialogue on tight deadlines, with zero royalties and zero job security. Crunchyroll charges a premium price for their service, but they actively exploit the laborers who create the localized content. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, okay, that's bad, but at least I still own the anime I already paid for. They can't take that away from me. About that. Now we arrive at one of the most infuriating decisions in modern streaming history, the fallout of the Funimation merger. When Sony announced that Funimation was shutting down and migrating to Crunchyroll, they promised a smooth transition. They promised users that their accounts, their watch histories, and their content would all be moved over. But there was a massive glaring exception. For years, Funimation sold physical DVDs and Blu-rays that included a digital copy code. It was exactly like buying a movie on Apple TV. You bought the physical disc, you typed the code into the Funimation website, and you legally owned a digital copy of that anime in your Funimation library forever. People spent hundreds, sometimes thousands, building massive digital collections of their favorite shows. And in early 2024, Crunchyroll sent out an email that effectively told those users to go screw themselves. Crunchyroll announced that when the Funimation app permanently shut down in April 2024, the digital copies would not be transferred to Crunchyroll. The libraries that users had rightfully paid for were going to be permanently deleted. Poof, gone. And how did Crunchyroll justify this? They claimed that they couldn't support the infrastructure of digital copies. But the real answer is greed. They didn't want their users to own digital media. They wanted users trapped in a perpetual subscription model. Why let a user watch a digital copy of Dragon Ball Z that they already own, when you can force them to pay $10 a month to watch it on your premium streaming service? Fans were absolutely livid, and as a final insult, immediately following this announcement, Crunchyroll raised their subscription prices. They took away your own media, killed their only competitor, and then demanded more money. And through all of this, remember, you still had to actually use the app to watch anything, which brings us to a separate, spectacular disaster that has been failing the entire time. Okay, let's do this a little differently. I'm not going to describe the Crunchyroll app, I'm going to walk you through it. It's Friday night, a new episode of Solo Leveling or Free Run or something just dropped. You open the app. First problem, you have to find the show. Good luck. The interface is cluttered, the search is inconsistent, and if you try to browse by genre, you're going to be there for for a while. Eventually though, you find it, and you click on it, and you're staring at 5 seasons listed in the menu. 5. You know the show just started, so you click season 2, figuring maybe it's a recap film or something. It's season 1 dubbed in Portuguese. Season 3 is Spanish. Season 4 is French. Season 5 is Italian. Season 1, the one you actually want, is buried at the top, unlabeled like a trap. There's no audio toggle. There never was. For years, Crunchyroll solved the multiple language problem by just listing each language as a completely fake season and letting you figure it out. Okay, so you find the right one, and you hit play. The video starts, and it looks great for about 45 seconds. Then the resolution drops. Not because your internet is slow, because the video player decided to reset to 480p for no reason and didn't tell you. You go into settings, push it back to 1080p, and the subtitles desync. The dialogue is happening. The text is lagging 3 full seconds behind. You pause, back it up, try again, it's fine. Then the app crashes. You're on a smart TV, by the way. Crunchyroll's smart TV app is notorious. It has crashed on more operating systems than it has worked on. You reopen it. The show picks up from the beginning because it didn't save your progress. You don't have individual profiles set up because Crunchyroll didn't add multi-user profiles until embarrassingly recently. And then, if this is a major premiere night, the server just dies entirely. 502 bad gateway. The whole platform goes offline for hours. Crunchyroll knew exactly what day this episode was dropping. They knew exactly how much traffic was coming, and they chose not to prepare for it. That's not just bad luck. These are deliberate choices. Choices made by a company that would rather spend money acquiring new licenses than investing in the infrastructure that makes those licenses actually playable. They expect you to pay premium prices for an app that fails at the one thing it's designed to do. And while all of this was happening digitally, Crunchyroll was also dismantling the last great alternative for people who still like to actually own their anime. Before we talk about what Crunchyroll did, let me tell you what Right Stuff Anime was. For over 30 years, Right Stuff Anime was a gold standard for buying manga, DVDs, Blu-rays, and merchandise in North America. They were an independent team out of Iowa. They were anime fans who built something from nothing. If you ordered a fragile box set from Right Stuff, it arrived perfectly. Not because they had a massive corporate logistics department, but because they actually cared. The packaging was elite. The sales were the best in the industry. The customer service team knew what they were talking about. If your item was damaged, they made it right. They had built 30 years of genuine loyalty under their company. And then Crunchyroll acquired it. In August 2022, Crunchyroll bought them. And when the acquisition was announced, both companies released statements assuring the community that nothing would change. They promised that the Iowa team would remain intact. The shipping quality would stay the same, and Right Stuff would operate as an independent brand under the Crunchyroll umbrella. 1 year later, Crunchyroll announced that they were closing Right Stuff Anime. They migrated all user accounts, pending orders, and order histories over to the Crunchyroll store, and the transition was a nightmare. Users lost access to their purchase histories. Pre-orders placed months in advance were suddenly stuck in limbo, with no communication from customer support, and the packaging was horrible. Fans started receiving their expensive limited edition Blu-ray sets thrown into flimsy, unpadded boxes, destroyed in transit.
They were able to put everything in there without any packaging material. Well, there should always be packaging material, guys. There should be something like bubble wrap, all right? Bubble wrap, right? Something like that inside the box, all right? Because stuff moves around. Well, there was a little bit of air in the box, all right? Little bit of area that, and they didn't even put any packaging material on it, all right?
The Crunchyroll store's customer service ignored complaints, refused refunds for damaged items, and made it clear that media collectors were not a priority. But the most insidious part of the Right Stuff acquisition was the censorship. Right Stuff Anime was an independent retailer, which meant they sold adult-oriented, erotic anime and manga. They carried 18+ content that was vital to a massive subset of the industry. When Crunchyroll shut them down and moved the inventory to their own store, they permanently banned all adult content. And because Crunchyroll is owned by Sony, and Sony has strict corporate policies regarding that material, thousands of physical media items were completely erased from the primary North American market. Independent publishers, who relied on Right Stuff to distribute their mature content, were suddenly left with nowhere to go. Crunchyroll lied to the community, killed a beloved 30-year-old independent business, and enforced corporate censorship on physical media. And all of that, every single thing we just covered, was about what Crunchyroll was destroying, what fans already owned, what had already been built. But while they were tearing all of that down, they were quietly starting to destroy something else entirely, the content itself. This brings us to the present day, and the absolute darkest consequence of everything we've talked about. Now, we've already established something. Crunchyroll refuses to pay human translators and voice actors a union-protected wage. But even paying them pennies is apparently too expensive for Sony's corporate execs. Over the last couple of years, there's been serious documented controversies about AI being used in Crunchyroll's localizations. And this is not speculation. The community has receipts. In 2023, fans watching Zom 100, Bucket List of the Dead on Crunchyroll, started posting screenshots of subtitles that felt completely wrong. Not wrong in a "the translator made a stylistic choice way, wrong in a mechanically generated, emotionally hollow way. Lines that were technically accurate word for word from Japanese, but completely missed the register, the character voice, and the context. One character's panicked, frantic speech was rendered in the same flat, neutral tone as expository dialogue. The kind of mistake a human translator, someone who watched the episode, understood the scene, understood who was speaking and why, would never make. The kind of mistake a language model makes when processing text without understanding it. Fans immediately flagged it, screenshots went viral, and the response from Crunchyroll? Silence. And it's not just flat dialogue. There's been multiple instances of closed captions for English dubs being generated by automatic transcription software, typos included, not reviewed, not corrected, just automatically transcribed and published, words misheard by an algorithm, sitting in the subtitle of a premium product that people are actively paying for right now. This is the ultimate insult to the art form. Anime is an incredibly passionate, deeply emotional, and painstakingly handcrafted medium. Every line of dialogue in a well-localized sub or dub represents a human being watching that scene, feeling what the character is feeling, and trying to recreate that experience in a completely different language. That's not a mechanical process, that's art. And Crunchyroll, the company that's supposed to be the bridge between creators and fans, looked at that human passion, and then tried to process it through a cheap algorithm to save a few dollars on localization costs. They don't view anime as an art, they view it as content, data to be processed, packaged, and sold at a premium price while minimizing human labor as much as legally possible. The soul is being sucked entirely out of the platform. And that is the final, unavoidable conclusion of every decision we've covered today.